Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm in Mexico, so I'm doing very well.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, hello and welcome to Redefining the Significance of You Time for You, by you, because of you. My name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I'm an empowerment life coach supporting women around the world to lean into and realize the importance of you. The goal of this channel is to provide you, the viewer, some takeaways that will help you shift, change, reevaluate, and/or become more aware of what is possible. We have a variety of incredible guests who will be sharing their life experiences that have helped them become the incredible human beings that they are. Every one of us, sometime in our lives, when we've had that free time, frequently feel guilty, embarrassed, or wrong for taking time out for ourselves. And we are here to change that. And we're going to support you to see what is possible for you when you take the time for you, by you, because of you. I would like to introduce our guest today, and I want to make sure that I say your name right. Is it Hesha
You got it.
Abrams? Perfect. To our show today. Hesha has been a lawyer for over 40 years and has been a mediator for over 35 and has helped tens of thousands of lives living or having mediated over 10,000 cases, has given thousands of speeches impacting even thousands more people. Her work is about bringing parties together to reach an agreement or a settlement. These are often involving high stakes situations occurring between Fortune 100 companies, involving people with big egos and strong personalities that just want to win. Hesha uses the tools she has developed in holding the calm and create synergy amongst the most diverse personalities, driving them towards agreements. Oh my gosh, I couldn't wait to meet you.
Thank you so much.
This is amazing. How can you do all of that heavy lifting in a way that changes people's perspectives? It's so fascinating. How does
Thank
that
you for
even?
asking that question. It's so interesting. And generally speaking, you don't change people's perspectives. I mean, when I was young, it's just a funny story. When I was young and I was a mediator, I bought a round table for my conference room thinking there'll be no sides. We'll all be around the round table and we'll work together cooperatively and synergistically to solve problems. Yeah, that lasted 6 months. And I had to sell this very expensive round table and buy a square table, a round rectangle, because people want their sides. And so you really rarely change someone's perspective or someone's opinion. What you do is you change the leverage and the power points on the table. So if somebody is really stubborn, arrogant, self-righteous, fearful, they will take a position. And what you do is you change the dynamics that position is no longer tenable and it has to be moved. Now, sometimes there's magic and synergies happen. I didn't realize, I didn't understand. Now I'm better informed. But think about how often does somebody say, yeah, I wasn't really smart when I analyzed that. I really didn't understand. Thank you for schooling me and teaching me out of my ignorance. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So the question is, you just move the borders and change the dynamics of self-interest. That's how you actually get things done. And I'll tell you, I'll deal with a $100 billion case with big, huge CEOs. It is the same thing as dealing with a small claims neighbor dispute fighting over lawn furniture, because it's human beings, bumper car egos with human beings.
Incredible. So how in the world, is there specific strategies or tools? I know you've written this incredible book about finding the calm. What are some really tangible pieces that you'd be able to share with us? Because as you're talking, I'm like, holy smokes, I look at it in a much smaller scale, But I think some of the strategies you would use could be used in everyday situations where we've got what I work on with relationships with specifically moms and adult children, because they each
Yes.
have their, right? So,
Yes. And I have adult children, and I have adult in-law children that love me. So that's
yes,
that's the claim to fame, right? That you're able to do
right?
that. So yes. So human beings have what is it called, an amygdala. Some of our listeners may know that, some may not. It's two kidney-shaped little organs at the back of the brainstem, and it decides in a nanosecond. A nanosecond is faster than you can blink. And they decide whether you're friend or foe, whether I can trust you or not, whether it works or not. And it's not always right. In fact, it's most often wrong. That's how people get conned. That's how con artists work, to be able to do this manipulative kind of stuff. So you can't always trust it, but it's the caveman, cavewoman part of you that runs and controls. So, I mean, this is what I do for a living. And 2 years ago, I had a hysterectomy, and knock on wood, turned out fine. It was okay, but I was grounded. And I've made 10,000 speeches in my life, and people are always saying, "You got to write a book. Everyone needs this information." Who had time to write a book? I was a working mom. Who had time for that? Well, I was grounded. So I
Mhm.
actually wrote the book, and I thought everyone needs this, not just professionals.
Yeah.
So what I did is I wrote 20 tools in 20 chapters. Each chapter, and the book is designed to be read in an hour, hour and a half. Quick, light, easy read with lots and lots of stories. So can I
Mm,
give one just introductory
yeah.
story?
Yeah.
Okay.
For
So I
sure.
heard this one on Hidden Brain on NPR. There was a couch company that sold $20,000 and $30,000 couches, bespoke, the customized, the fabric, the piping, the edges, all that stuff, right? People would go all the way through on the computer, and at the point of sale, a huge percentage of people didn't complete the sale.
Mhm.
Company is perplexed. So what we do as humans is we're like cars. We have gas and we have a brake. 90% of us just speak louder, shove more, do more gas. That's what the company did. More sales, more promotion, more advertising, more marketing, redid the website. Nothing worked.
Mm.
Finally, okay, they put the brake on and they pull back, and they had somebody interview all the people who didn't complete the sale. The number one reason why people who could afford a $20,000 or $30,000 couch did not buy it, drum roll please, they didn't know what to do with the old couch. Crazy town. Crazy town.
It,
Now the solution is obvious. When you buy a new one, we take away the old one, right? And so what happens is that we tend not to stop and diagnose. We tend to just
yeah.
speak more, go forward, push in. And the number one tip I would tell people, the number one, is to be like a bomb detector in the town square. That guy waddles out in his Michelin suit, right? He doesn't just start cutting wires.
Right.
Look, diagnosis. Is it a pressure switch? Is it a chemical switch? What is it? Then you know. So I've got, like I said, so many tools and ways to do it in this easy read on this book, Holding the Calm. But I'll give you like one thing to think of right now.
Mhm.
Would I speak the same way to an introvert as I would an extrovert? And everyone says, no, of course not. Well, do we take the time to go, are you an introvert or an extrovert? How about this? How about if you're a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner? It's
Mhm.
like a Samsung smartphone or an Apple smartphone. Both smartphones, completely different operating systems. And if you'd like, can I give the quick tip on visual, auditory, and
Yeah.
kinesthetic?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic is the way that our brains process information, like a Samsung or an iPhone. You either process things visually, you process things auditorially, hearing wise, or you process them kinesthetically, which means touching, feeling, stuff like that. And the number one trick to know to figure out what somebody is? Verbs. Isn't that the craziest thing? Let me give you an example. I see what you're saying. That looks good to me. Visual. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
That sounds right to me. Auditory. I get what you're saying. That feels right in my gut. Kinesthetic. And so when someone is talking, yes, you should listen. Of course, you listen for content, but that's sort of like saying brush your teeth.
Mhm.
Like, okay,
Mhm.
you also have to go to the dentist and get your teeth cleaned, right?
Right.
So you listen, and then you start hearing, are they introvert or extrovert? Are they visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? And you listen to the verbs. And then when you speak to them, you speak in those verbs. Now, no one's going to say, oh my God, you get me. I'm a visual learner and you have now talked to me in visual words. No. But what will happen is, I don't know, I just like you.
Yeah.
I feel like I can trust you. You get me. That's what happens. And that's all you did. That's just the basic, simple that everybody can use today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting how you're talking about cluing in and tuning in to what is actually happening. Because until we understand what is happening, we just run off emotion. And when we run off emotion, we get nowhere. We just get heightened. We just get into it deeper, right? And so don't you find that when you are running into that, like you just said, we don't hear each other, we don't really understand, and we don't even try a different approach. And that's exactly why I love talking to you right now, because it's teasing in right to what the work that I do, which is working on that communication and understanding that your child isn't doing that like to bother you. There's a message behind what's going on. Figure out that message.
The reason we have flat foreheads is because we smash our faces against the wall again. And what we do is we're all one-trick ponies unless we know these techniques. We try one thing, and if it doesn't work, well, you're a jerk. You're impossible. You're ridiculous. And the thing I hate is the idea that women are crazy. That's a moniker that men throw around. And as women, we've adopted it, which is obnoxious. So I ask all of our listeners, never use the word crazy to describe anybody, much less a woman, because it's not. Empowered women who tried to stand up for themselves and like, oh, maybe I should have the right to vote or be on a jury of my peers, were put in insane asylums. So it's a pretty bad thing. And that's what we do, as opposed to saying, wait a minute, you're not using the right technique. You're fishing and you put the wrong bait on your hook. The responsibility is on you. And so if you've got, let's just use kids, is the same thing as dealing with your boss or a CEO or a customer. You try something and it doesn't work. Why do you keep trying that same thing?
Yeah.
That's just stupid. So step back, be the bomb detector person and say, okay, we got all cattywampus here and we got out. Now, in some situations you can say, you know what, let's do a do-over. I'm sorry, I didn't handle that well. The person immediately melts, immediately. And you want a quick sentence stem that's like magic beans in every single situation. You know what I really like about you? Boom. You know what I really admire about you? Boom. You know what I really respect about you? Boom. Game stopper. Ears open. Who's going to say, no, I don't want to know?
Right?
You have to say. Now it stops immediately. And now they go, what?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
What are you going to say? And let's say you really don't like the other person, or you think they're misguided, stubborn, resistant, nasty, obnoxious, hateful, blah, So if you can validate them, obviously you should. But let's do the advanced course. Let's say you can't because you just really dislike them, can't respect them, all that kind of stuff. You can always say, I admire your passion, your conviction, your determination, your persistence, your patience. All of those are things that soften the other person, because realize that the other person is going, meow, what's been triggered? Their amygdala. When your amygdala is triggered and their amygdala is triggered, that was how we have wars.
Yeah, exactly.
I think in the olden days, we had kings and all that nonsense. You insulted me and I'm going to take, 50,000 of my men and we're going to go have wars and men die because you pissed me off and said something I didn't like. It happened every day, all the time. Ridiculous. So being able to take that bomb detector, step back. What do we have here? And what happens is, let's say your amygdala is triggered. The reason I called the book Holding the Calm, we played around with a lot of titles, and it could have been, resolving conflict or being a master at problem solving or, all that kind of junk. And the reason I did it is because when your amygdala is triggered, your heart is like this, it's gripped like a tight beast on your heart. You can't think, you can't breathe. So if you say like a talisman or a mantra or a rabbit's foot, I'm holding the calm, I'm holding the calm, I'm holding the calm. What did that take? 3 seconds? And what it says to your amygdala is, I'm not powerless.
Yeah.
I have options. I have choices. It creates a moat around the emotion and what I choose to do now. I'm a smart person. I've got choices, don't I? And in holding the calm, I've got 20 fantastic choices and sentence stems all over the place. And I tell people, find 2 or 3 that work for you. Stick them on a Post-it note and put it on your phone so that when the time comes, boom, I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying. Even practicing, which is kind of what you're saying with putting it on your phone, practicing when you're not in that elevated state will allow the neurons to pull it in at the time of need instead of always, oh no, I have to remember. You can practice it when you're calm, right?
Well done.
Yeah.
I'll make one other suggestion that I did when I was, a baby mediator, learning how to do things. I thought I need to practice on other people before I practice on clients, right? So I went to the return desk at Target. I sat there for an hour and I watched. And I diagnosed, because I need practice diagnosing. And then how did that go well? How did that go poorly? What did that person do? What was the genesis? Because obviously now someone's yelling, right? I want to go backwards 4 steps or 12 steps. What was the genesis? And that's why I call the book Holding the Calm, The Secret to Resolving Conflict and Diffusing Tension. Because every single piece of conflict, every single one, 100% of them starts with tension. Even if the tension is this. Every single one. And I'll give another, I'm the analogy queen because that's how people live. But this is a great analogy. You drop spaghetti sauce on the counter. It's wet. You wipe it up with a sponge, right? No big deal. You leave it overnight, you're scraping it off with a spatula. You leave it 3 or 4 months and it's old and moldy and nasty. That, my friends, is tension and conflict. So why don't we wipe it up with a sponge? We don't know how. We're afraid. I hope it'll go away. I hope you're just going to forget about it and I won't have to deal with it.
Just
and
put it over there.
It doesn't. They're stored like nuts for the winter. And so it's really a challenge. And so if you have these tools, you can just clean the spaghetti sauce up when they're wet. And one more analogy, in the Bible, I think the Old Testament, it says, if I steal your goat, if I kill your goat, I have to give you 5 in exchange. Neuroscience has now proven that mathematically, that the Bible was right there, that if I do 1 bad thing, I have to do 5 good to just get back to where I was when I did the 1 bad, right? So, so you put, it's like carbon offsets, keep doing good stuff and put it in the kitty, because you're going to screw up. You're going to say something wrong or stupid, or you're going to be impatient or tired or cranky or whatever, so you do that so that it makes the spaghetti sauce easier later. Right. And one of the great ways to do it, especially with your teens, is to say, you know what? I screwed up. I didn't handle that well. Can we have a do-over?
Yeah.
They look at you like shocked. And what you do is you give them permission to screw up.
Yeah.
And so they can say do-over.
100%. I love that. I love that. I do a lot of chat about 5 to 1, right? 5 positive to 1 negative. Oh yeah, all the time. And the one thing that I think is really important as you're talking about conflict, I would absolutely love to have the listeners not only think about the conflict that you have outside with others, but I want you to start thinking about the internal conflicts you have with yourself and how you can use what Hesha's talking about on your own self. Now, why am I talking to myself in that way? Why am I thinking those thoughts, right? And then analyze it, pull back, and give yourself that positive reinforcement, because you deserve it as much as anybody else, right?
Good for you. Good for you. You deserve it more, because if you go down, everyone goes down. right? And then you
100%.
model for your kids what's okay. Do I beat myself up? Yes, yes. I
Right?
had a friend years and years and years and years ago, and I used to go, "Oh, my thighs are too big," and she'd say, "Why do you say that?" Oh no, I remember she said, "Why do you hate your thighs so much?" I went,
Mhm.
"Huh? What? Huh?" I mean, and then she said, "Why are you so mean to yourself?" I went, "What are you talking about?" And it took me years to go, "I'm not going to speak negatively about myself. I'm not going to. The world can do that for you. I'm not going to help. I'm
Right?
not going to do that." So I love what you're saying. I love what you're
Mhm.
saying.
Mhm. So powerful. And the book you've written will give us the strategies to use not only for others, but for ourselves. And like you say, when we start with ourselves, and this is what we talk about all the time with my clients, start with yourself.
Yeah.
And when you start making changes, everybody else around changes with you
It's so
without,
weirdly true. It's that birds flock together thing, the environment. You set a tone and
yeah,
the frequency just shifts. If you're negative, negativity will happen. If you're empowered, everyone will, and what I say to people also, there's nothing wrong with controlling your life as best you can. If
yeah,
you've got negative, difficult people in your life, you can say, why am I allowing them in my life? And how do I push them maybe out? Because
yeah.
some people can't change. Some people are
Right.
just negative Nancy's, or they're
Yep.
so stuck in their own victim
Yeah.
cycle or their own
Yep.
pain cycle, and they can't
Mhm.
seem to get out.
Yeah.
You can push them outer circle. Because
Mhm.
one of the things people say to me all the time, I'll walk into a room. I mean, I do consulting and training and mediation and all this junk. But when I walk into a case and someone says, I want $100 million, and the other one says, here's 10,000, drop dead. How do we settle that?
Mhm.
It's certainly not with logic or reason or rationale. No, that's not happening at all. What I do is identify self-interest and I align them.
Right.
That's what happens. And
Mhm.
so, for example, when people are victims, there's a big payoff to being a victim or they wouldn't do it. Now, they will say, of course there's not. I'm miserable. It's unfair. But there's a big payoff for that. And then
Mhm.
there's until you start saying, I'm not going to do that. I mean, if you live in some little mud hut in Pakistan or Africa, your choices are really quite limited. But we in the Western world have a
Mhm.
lot of choices, an enormous amount of choices.
Mhm.
Choose Obi-Wan. How and I've done a lot of hospice work. I've helped a lot of people die.
Mm.
People have regret over what they did. They have
Yeah.
regret over what they didn't do. But
Yeah.
it's too late then, you know?
Yeah.
So look at your life and say, this is my life. And if you got a cancer diagnosis, that you got a year to live, would you be living this life with these
Yeah.
people doing it this way?
Yeah.
So you don't know. You can get hit by a bus tomorrow, or you can last till you're
Mm.
104.
Mhm.
But I want to be the architect, and it doesn't mean my life doesn't have difficulty or challenges or problems.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's how you handle those
Mm.
kinds of things, and that's why I wrote Holding the Calm. When I tell people I got an amygdala, you could poke me. Now I have a very, very, very long wick because I'm a
Yeah.
professional. I do this for a living, but you can get me. I'm
Yep.
tired. I'm cranky, and I say
Mm.
enough, enough.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to go. "Oh, I didn't handle that well.
Yeah.
Can I have a do-over, please?" Or I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. That wasn't my
Mhm.
intention. How do I make it right? And
Exactly.
can I give your listeners, kids, I apologize if you're having breakfast, everyone, because it's kind of a gross analogy. But I used to say this to my teenagers because they don't understand the 5 to 1 and you got to be good. They didn't care about that.
Yeah.
So I used to say, it's almost as if because I had a very difficult teenage son who now is 40 and, love of my life. He's phenomenal. And he thanks me all the time for putting up with him,
Mm.
which thank God. So I used to say, it's as if you dropped your drawers and took a poop in the middle of the living room. That's what you did. So the
Mhm.
first step is to acknowledge it's yours. Own it.
Yes.
Second step is to clean it up.
Yeah.
Third step is to scrub the stain out of the carpet. Fourth step is to spray aerosol to make sure it doesn't stink anymore. And fifth step is to do whatever else is necessary to make it right. And he used to go,
Mhm.
"Rah, rah, rah, rah," he would grumble. But he uses that analogy now with his kids.
Right? Yeah, because it made the difference. It made it concrete for him to go, oh yeah, this really isn't what I want to be doing, right? But you couldn't do it in any other way. I love it. I love it.
It's so
Connect with
funny.
where they're at.
Human beings, we are just such interesting, funny creatures,
Mhm.
and I call my grandchildren creatures, or urchins. Come here, urchins. And at first they were like, what? I said, oh, urchins, creatures, and they just think it's hilarious. Excuse me.
I have a question here. Why do you love Star Trek so much?
Oh, I'm a big Star Trek fan. First of all, Captain Janeway all the way. A woman captain of a starship exploring, she's magnificent. And they are always mediating intergalactic disputes with different species, and showing what is possible. I'm
Mm,
a big believer in triumph of the human spirit. My kids kind of
mm,
laugh at me because I cry at movies. Triumph of the human spirit. It's what we're capable of. I'd
yeah.
rather think, as a story I tell in the book, my husband has a friend who's a Navy SEAL. And, Navy SEALs are supposed to tread water until they die. And my husband asked him once, so how long can you tread water? He said, I don't know. I'm not dead yet. And I thought about that, and I put this in the book
Mm,
for us. How big can you get?
mhm.
How bright can you get? How wise can you get? How light can you get? I don't know. I'm not dead yet. And that's my
Love it.
goal. I want to be an old, old woman if I'm lucky enough to live to be an old woman. But
Mhm.
whatever I have, I want to be as big as I was capable of being. And I say to our listeners, but you got to be smart. Your brain's
Yeah.
not so open that, your brains fall out. You know, you have governors and you have insurance and you're smart about how you do things. But
Yeah.
living life that way is
Mhm.
infinitely more exciting
Yeah.
and richer and better. And then people want to flock around you. They just do. So holding the calm, everybody.
Exactly. And why shouldn't we do it that way? Everybody has the opportunity to live life to their absolute fullest, and we won't know what that is until the
Mhm.
end has come. And then it's like, well, there it
Isn't that
is. I did it.
Actually, I read something in one of my Star Trek books. We had a friend who died in an airplane crash, and I just wrote this to
Mm,
them. And I thought this was the most beautiful way to think about death. We think about death as, you're done, life was cut too short, we miss you, all that sad stuff, which is true. But if instead you say the day you were born, your mosaic starts, and a little
mm,
tile gets put in your mosaic. Every life experience, everyone you love, everyone you hate, every failure, every success is another tile. And it becomes the mosaic design of your life. And the day you die, the design is complete.
mm.
Isn't that
Perfect.
lovely?
It is perfect. Yes, I love that. Oh my goodness, we could go on and on and on, couldn't we?
Indeed. Indeed. We are kindred spirits, aren't we?
We definitely are. I love this. What a pleasure having a conversation with you. We will put in the show notes all of the information. I'm going to share with everyone the website www.holdingthecalm.com.
And
So I'll
calm
make
is
sure,
CALM, like
see,
calm. For
thank
people,
you.
calm.
Good point. Thank you. We'll put it in the show notes below. Make sure you sign up for the insights that are available through that website. And there's speaking engagements available. Reach out, connect with Hesha. She's a powerhouse. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting
Thank
with you today and meeting you in Mexico, where you are. And I'm in Ontario. So talk about distance. I love it. If you have not been a part of our amazing weekly newsletters, please make sure you subscribe because we provide words of encouragement, tips, strategies every Monday and Friday. If you're new to my world, I have free hotspot coaching in our wonderful Wednesday Inside Our Empty Nester Facebook group. And we have our live stream every Tuesday. I am on a mission to help change lives, making a difference for moms, parents. If you have any question about what's in store for you, drop me a DM and hop on a free discovery call. You can change only what can happen if you allow it and if you make sure you do your bomb analysis. So I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Hesha. It has been an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. Happy holidays, everybody.